The Mom View is brought to you by Moms for America in partnership with the Herzog Foundation, empowering moms and championing Christian education nationwide. We've taken God out of public education, and we, the people, we're putting him back in. There is hope, moms, and it's happening all across our country. It's been so heartbreaking to watch public education fail our kids, but we as moms were flipping the script. Our special guest today, our Honorable Julie Pickren, who has helped pass legislation to put God back into Texas public schools, and historical children's author Jenny Cote. This is going to be a great show. Stay tuned. Welcome, moms, to the Mom View. Look at, we've got a beautiful set here and all our lovely ladies here on the couch. Thank you, moms, for joining us. Right here to my right, your left, is Julie Pickren, Honorable Julie Pickren. She's going to be our special guest host today. Welcome, Julie.
Howdy. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and of course, everybody knows Kimberly and Myra, and we're so glad to have you here joining us. How about let our audience know your title and what you're doing here in Texas.
My title is I serve on the Texas State Board of Education. God has been so wonderful, and it was out of his great grace. I am honored to serve about 10,000 square miles of the great state of Texas. And, you know, I get to serve about 6 million children every day of my life. So I can't think of anything that the Lord could have let me do other than this, that just...
I think we should interject here and say that 10,000 square miles is like a little blip in this huge state, but it's a lot of kids in that little blip. And you have had incredible achievements while you have been on the school board and leading up to the time that you served.
Yes. I was a school board trustee of my local school district before I was elected to serve at the state level. So, you know, the Bible promises that when we're faithful with a little, God will grant us with much. Amen. And so I think I was just very faithful to honor God in his ways, right? Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all these things will be added unto you. And so I think I was just very faithful to represent him with my 30,000 children, and now, you know, thankful to him and to the wonderful constituents of Texas, I get to serve almost 6 million children now.
Well, the people saw that. The parents saw it. And one of the big reasons why there's such a pushback and looking to bring people like you into these positions is because of the crisis in education. Yeah. And you saw that firsthand. You saw it you saw it as a mom, and then you saw it in your capacity in your school district, and then now on the state board. So what kind of things have you seen that have caused you great turmoil to want to make a change?
Well, you know, Kimberly, I come from a very strong business background. And so when I started serving in education, that was a new area for me. And so I remember our superintendent, when I was very first elected to my local board, our superintendent was also new to our school district. So I asked him, I said, all of the data that you're going through, all the data for the district, please send me that data. And I just want to comb through the data. And then in about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll meet and sit down. And what I realized after looking at our data is that we had problems in our school district that only God could solve, right?
Wow.
You have bullying, drugs, human trafficking, prostitution, student-led prostitution, right? Teachers with PTSD. I mean, just a whole myriad of things that were really morality problems, right? And so that is what kind of started this journey of how do we bring spiritual care? How do we bring people that represent God back into education just to help us with our campuses and our classrooms?
Yeah, we know that Jesus is the answer. We know that when they decided to take God out of the public school system, the decline, like you said, morality, the problems, it's hopeless. And teachers can't share any hope. I remember when I was growing up, I remember a teacher praying for me. I mean, you could never do that in the public school system. They tie you up and throw you out. But I mean, the culture is realizing we've got to do things differently. And I love that you're part of the solution.
Absolutely. Yeah, we saw, same thing when I was growing up, the public schools and the churches were the heart of the community.
Yeah.
I remember my teachers at school were also my Sunday school teachers at church. So there was just this natural respect and trust with them, right? And so we don't see that so much anymore in society. So we really just need to bring our communities back together and bring what united our communities back into our cities and our communities in our state.
Well, I see that the teachers also, they've been bullied. They've been pushed into situations that they feel uncomfortable with. And we hear from teachers a lot. I know right now they're talking about the whole book banner thing and parents and the running the
and unfortunately,
teachers
a
out.
lot of teachers are quitting
They
because
are.
of that. It's getting very hard to find good teachers because they don't want to be told to teach kids what they don't want to be teaching them. They want to teach what they're supposed to be teaching.
So they blame it on the parents, but it's really the teachers, the parents, most of the people involved in the whole entire education system are opposed to this. Yes. And it's the teachers unions that push all these bullying tactics down, and they have so much money. And one of the things they don't understand that I learned several years ago is that the teachers themselves are paying for their own oppression by signing up for the teachers union. And one of the things that I've been trying to help teachers understand is that you're not the teachers union.
That's right.
You're paying into the teachers union so that they can bully and oppress you. And,
right.
The Department of
dictate.
Education too.
Right.
I mean, just that whole, that's right, government mecca that is ruling the country.
Yeah.
Because even like in Texas, we don't have collective bargaining for teachers, right? So when a teacher is paying into the teachers union in Texas, they're really just paying into for that union to lobby against parents or to lobby against their morals or their beliefs. So it's not even really the union is doing anything for the teacher.
No.
In how you would think in a traditional union capacity. It's really just to fund their lobbying against the majority of Texans' morals and beliefs.
And that's happening in every single state. You see it in Arizona. And I know that the parents in all the states are starting to realize these teachers unions are just evil. And what they're doing to the teachers, to the school boards, every aspect of the education system, they're trying to run amok over it. And I can see the influence that that's having in the curriculum that's being brought down, the books that are in the libraries. So you saw a lot of that when you were serving as well, right?
I did. What's very concerning as of late is really with the ALA, the American Library Association, who your school districts are paying the ALA to provide the professional development for your school librarian.
What books you're going to have, what things you're going to have in the
Exactly.
library.
What displays, what are you going to display? What are you going to highlight? What are the readers that you're going to recommend for teachers? And so when you now have the head of the American Library Association, which again is heavily engaged in taxpayer-funded lobbying. That's our tax dollars funding them. That is a self-avowed Marxist. That she is very proud of saying that she is a Marxist.
She's openly said this on we have the videos of her saying things like that. So it's not like she's hiding it.
No, she's very proud
She's
of
flaunting
her
it,
beliefs. Yes. And so, which it's America, right? I mean, great. First Amendment rights. She can say that all day long. But then what you can't say, at least in Texas, where we have legislation that says that you will have a pro-Texas and pro-America, a patriotic viewpoint in our public education. Well, Marxism doesn't work with that.
That's right.
Now, I hear that and I just go, I'm in Illinois. I mean, this is just, there's California. Look what they've done to California.
Yes.
I'm in one of these states where you just feel like there's no hope. But you shared some really hopeful information for me that Texas actually was
Yes,
the other
we
way
used to
too. And now you've gone this way. Kimberly's from Missouri originally, but you're from
Well,
everywhere.
my husband's it was Air Force, so
He's
we've
from
been
everywhere.
everywhere.
I don't
But
know.
currently, I'm in Missouri.
And Myra's in Arizona.
Which, if we're not careful, if people don't pay attention to selecting and electing state board officials that are like Julie, are people that will represent our views and our values and will bring God back into the school, we will be losing Arizona too.
Can you share that hope for everyone that what Texas was? Because I really got to hear that again from Illinois.
Absolutely. So, Texas used to be a completely blue state. When my family, my husband's family entered into, and I know y'all are nonpartisan. I completely respect that. Okay. There are people that have a D behind their name who are doing good things, right? We've seen that. Unfortunately, it's not that many, but God willing, that'll change. Yes. But anyways, even in Texas, where we live in Harris County, when my husband and I were young, when we were growing up, there wasn't even a Republican Party there.
Right.
That's right.
Wow.
Our state was completely
Really?
completely Democrat state, completely top down. Every county state leadership down was completely a blue state. But it was the left's radical policies around abortion and around children that really brought the conversation back to there has to be a different way.
Yes.
And so that's what ignited our Republican parties around the state. And now, we're just about a completely red state, right?
I mean, that is so hopeful to hear.
Yes, because the power is always with we, the
It
people.
is the people.
The
Yes.
people, and especially, the ones I love, my mama bears, right? Everybody sitting here.
Yes.
The power is always with we, the people, and especially our moms and grandmothers.
Yes, we can take it back, and we've got to run for office, like you said. And a lot of our moms, just if you want to encourage them, they are looking to run for school board. They are looking to get
Or finding
involved in
good
the
candidates
process
to support.
and get
Yes.
and to be those candidates and be the change.
So my voice to you, if you're looking, do it. The Bible says that when we're knitted together in our
Right.
mother's womb, that God puts our dreams and desires inside of
right.
us. If education is what you're thinking about when you wake up in the morning, if children are what, has you in your coffee time in the afternoon or in your Bible time in the morning, that's what's on your mind that you're praying about is education and children. Obviously, the Lord has put that desire and that passion inside of you for that. So do it.
I love that. Just do it. Take the leap. Okay, we were talking about this earlier. How do you know when it's really God calling you? Is it because it's my crazy brain saying that I want to do this? Who says that? Who wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to run for office? So I tell everybody, it's God because of Indiana Jones. And everybody's like, what? The third movie where it's the search for the Holy Grail. And he's going through all these clues and he's following every single path. And he gets to the very last clue and it's got to save his dad's life. And he goes out in this huge cavern standing on the edge of this cliff and it goes down for miles. And the clue is take a leap of faith. And you can see in the film, Harrison Ford is like, what do I do? And finally he closes his eyes and he takes a step and this bridge appears. It was always there, but it was blended in with the rocks. And I said, that's how you know. When everything in your head says turn and run and something deep in your heart and soul says take a leap of faith, just do it.
Take the leap. That's right.
Yes.
Just jump and go for it.
Yes, because everybody's sitting here. Y'all are all right. We're all very accomplished women in our own right? And a lot of the women watching, you're very accomplished women also in your own right. Yes. So I used to pray, Lord, just give me the big picture and I'll take it and I'll handle it, right? I can do this, Jesus. I promise you. But that's not how he is, right? At the same time, he loves us and wants to increase our faith. Right. So now my prayers are very different. Now all I do is I just pray, Lord, just show me the next step. Yes. If you show me the next step and the next door, I promise you I'll walk through it.
So I just wake up every morning and say, lead me and guide me today and help me not screw it up.
Yeah. Right.
That's a good one.
Amen, Kimberly. There you go. Amen.
Even though I think we would love to see the future because then we can plan it all out, it's you just don't learn, you don't grow. And it's kind of frightening if you knew the answer because you'd be like, there's no way I can ever do that. I'm not going to be able to do it. But step by step when God directs us. Education, we're going to come back and talk about some of the answers in model legislation. It is as bad as we can imagine all across the country. What do you think is the couple of top? I know you talked a lot about the values and the morals in the schools, but what they're slipping into our books and the social emotional learning and those agendas. It is so bold now, and it is just completely out of control across the country.
It is. I tell you, we saw this. My first experience with critical race theory was in about 2015, 2016 school year. And I tell you that critical race theory, the reason why we have to stand so strong on keeping that out of our school is really when you get to the foundation of CRT, it is teaching our children from a very young age the foundations of socialism and Marxism. Right, yeah. And so, Abraham Lincoln said, show me your education system of today and I'll show you your government in 20 years. Right. So what will happen is our children, if they're educated through this lens of critical race theory, then in 15, 20 20 years, when they are the voting bloc, you're going to be able to put a socialist or even communist candidate in front of them, and they're going to speak the same language.
That's right.
We're all going to be in the back of the room, clutching our pearls, going, what in the world? But they're going to connect with our kids because they're going to speak the same language as our children. So this all boils down to the Constitution. This all boils down to the fabric of America, the foundation of America, and preserving our wonderfully, incredibly written, and by the way, the longest running Constitution now in the history of the world. Okay.
That's right.
Preserving our great Constitution.
Yeah. Well, Mom, stay with us because we're coming back with much more discussion with Julie. The Moms on the Couch. We're going to talk about some model legislation and some hope that is happening all across America. So we'll be right back.
The Herzog Foundation exists to catalyze and accelerate the development of quality, Christ-centered K-12 education so that families and culture flourish. To do so, we've created comprehensive programs designed for Christian schools across the nation. One of those programs is found at readlion.com. The Lion carries news articles covering issues especially related to the education of children. These are timely, critical, must-read articles for families, educators, and leaders. Another program is the Herzog Foundation Institute, where we provide training for Christian educators led by national thought leaders in subjects such as marketing, donor development, and culture building. All training events are fully funded by the Herzog Foundation. And finally, with new Christian schools popping up all over the country, we've created a free online resource to help with the process. HF Schoolbox provides lessons and free mentorship to help launch groups navigate the startup process every step of the way. We're the Herzog Foundation. You can find out more at herzogfoundation.com.
All right, welcome back to the Mom View. We are in the purple chairs here, and so glad to have Julie Pickren, of course, as our special guest today, along with Kimberly and Myra. We're all just talking about education, the crisis that we all know is happening, but we have got some great news to share. Moms for America, Texas, worked hand in hand with Julie on some policy legislation in this state, and there are some big wins to share, not only in Texas, but across the country.
Yeah. So I guess the first time that we connected was when there was a massive change that was going to be happening in the curriculum. And people don't understand how important Texas is when it comes to the books. And just so everybody knows, it is 12 years. Yeah. Texas and California are the states that determine who is going to be teaching our kids through the textbooks. Yes. And California really has kind of been marginalized at this point because Texas now has more students.
And more money.
And more money.
And
so all the textbook companies are coming, to Texas to see what is their TEKS, their essential knowledge standards for Texas. And we found out, gosh, it was 2 years ago now, right? That there was a huge push to put this baccalaureate type of curriculum that's basically Marxist, basically nothing. It was Marxist, communist, Chinese propaganda coming to the United States to convince all of our children that Marxism and communism was the way to go. And we just happened to all be at the same event together. We ended up all sitting around a table because Julie told somebody who told somebody, and there's a group of us sitting around the table and we're going, no, and it's literally going to pass, or they're going to vote on it in like 2 months.
Right.
And we're freaking out because every school book in the country is going to be affected by this, and every teacher will be teaching this. And we were like, no, this cannot happen. And you don't get to talk about it again for another 12 years.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Right. It doesn't cycle through for 12 years, which, by the way, thank you. I mean, to all the moms who are part of Moms for America, thank you from the bottom of this Texan's heart. We don't have these great wins without the wonderful ladies sitting here and without the moms who are part of Moms for America. If you're not part of Moms for America, go to their website right now, sign up, do whatever you need to do. You want to be on the winning team. I want to be on the winning team.
Plug.
Well, just because I've experienced the faith and the power and what we in Texas call grit of your leadership and your membership.
Thank you, Lord.
And so I'm a huge fan, just very thankful. But yes, that social studies rewrite, that you're right, it was complete Marxism. What was so interesting was that in elementary, it was teaching Chinese culture and Chinese history. I think it outnumbered 8-1 teaching Texas history and American history, teaching China's culture and China's history. And then it was going to teach also that, our fantastic Texas Rangers, right? Our most elite policing force in Texas, just great men and women of high character and high quality that love our state and serve our people with just such distinguished honor. It was going to teach them as a racist, oppressive organization. And so it's just things like that. It was just chock full of things that did not fit Texas values or fit America's values. And thank you so much for helping us defeat just what I would call.
That was a privilege.
Yeah, that was.
It was scary. I mean, it was a nail biter to the end, but the fact God was in the house that day. There's a great saying that says, work as if it all depends on you and pray as if it all depends on God, because both are true. And that is exactly what happened. I mean, we worked our tails off and then we prayed our guts out.
Yes. And then unfortunately, I wasn't on the board at the time. The Texas State Board of Education at the time was fast tracking it. That was what was really putting the pressure on us. They were calling special meetings.
The midnight hour vote.
Yes, to fast track its approval.
And do you know why? Because they knew that you were going to be elected and we were going to be turning over the state school board. And so they're trying to rush it through before that happened.
That may have been somewhere in the thought process, because a lot of great people around my state were elected whenever I was elected. We have a fabulous team.
Right. Sure. They want to push that stuff through before anyone realizes it or can fight it or stand up to it. So congratulations on that.
It's always harder to undo something once it's passed. So
and 12 years.
Right.
I mean, that's a nightmare. They're trying to push this through in the midnight hour and we're stuck with it for 12 years. I mean, it was miraculous. And most people in the country have no idea that it even happened or that we won. And it's just one of those, silent warrior things that we do with the fighting the battles. And it was a massive battle.
But everybody in America would have been affected by it.
They would have. They would have.
I think that's what a lot of moms don't really understand, or many of us as Americans. What happens in your neighboring state, it's even just like the illegals coming over the border. They're in every state. Education's books gets passed here. It goes across the country. Everything. This is a country. We're all connected.
That's
so
right.
what affects you affects me, even though we're not in the same state.
That's right.
Well, we saved the planet.
Right. We saved our children from Marxism.
Yes, we did.
Was there other wins too? Was there some other wins you had?
Yeah. So the chaplain bill. So that was another one I got really excited about. When I first heard about it, I'm like, I think I put chaplains in. They can put crazy Satanists in. But I looked at this bill and I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. I mean, the suicide rate is off the charts. The teachers don't even want to teach. You know that. All the good teachers are, not all the good teachers, but a lot of them are quitting, leaving, retiring early. And we see this massive influx in the mental health industry, people needing help. I mean, it's just crazy. And when you have all these counselors who are, the federal government gives money to schools to hire counselors whose sole responsibility is to transition kids.
Right, exactly.
And we're like, I'm sorry. And you have a problem with having a chaplain in there to talk to these kids? And so I was like, yes, we need to do this. And so we were thrilled to be a part of this. And there were some people, and that's what's great about Moms for America. Some of the moms were like, I don't know, I'm kind of leery about it. I'm like, that's okay. These moms over here will fight for it. But as an organization, we supported it because we felt this is a choice that schools should have an opportunity to be able to invite these counselors in just like any other counselor.
So what is it now? Chaplains can go to, there's a chaplain in every school or school district? What is that?
Well, how we wrote it, which... Thank you again. Again, go to your computer, momsforamerica.org.com. What are we?
.us.
Perfect. Join. Okay. So anyways, this goes back to the Bible verse I said earlier, when you're faithful with little, God will grant you much, right? So that goes back to when I was a trustee. When I went to my superintendent, I said, look, these are moral and spiritual issues. These are things that only God can fix, right? Mm-hmm. And so my superintendent at the time, our board organized, and our superintendent organized, and we put together what was called the superintendent's pastoral team, pastoral council.
Nice.
And we invited them onto our campuses. And the results we saw were incredible. As we say, the temperature of the campuses came down, right? And when you bring down the temperature, the aggressiveness, the everything that you don't want on campus, when you cool that temperature off, then education becomes the main thing again.
Yes.
So, we saw teachers were happier, students were happier, scores improved. I mean, it had a myriad of benefits from just doing something so simple of inviting people of faith, all faiths, right, into our campuses to spend time with our teachers and our kids. So then that's where we came up with the Texas School Chaplain Act. Senator Mays Middleton, wonderful leader in Texas, sponsored it on the Senate side. Representative Cole Hefner represented it on the Texas House side. Two great men, two great leaders. And then we had several co-authors, Representative Steve Toth, Montgomery County. I mean, just so many wonderful people that started signing on to it once they understood what it could do. Because our teachers really are benefiting from this. For the first time, we have teachers being diagnosed with the first responders and military mental disorder called PTSD. Well, if you go to the Department of Defense, to their data, according to the Department of Defense, PTSD happens when you have trauma that you don't get to unpack or unload, right? For a teacher, it may be a traumatic divorce, right? It may be something that she's going on through with her own children. It may be something she's going through at her campus. And what we realized is that teachers don't have anybody safe to talk to.
They don't. Actually, my daughter's only turning 25 and she moved to New York City with Teach for America Corps, right? And she was so excited. But at her young age, she already lost 3 of her students. She's teaching 11 and 12th grade. That gave her PTSD because one was to gang-related issues. The other ones were suicide. At her young age of 24, 3 of her students took their life.
Right. So see, if you go back a couple of decades, only a military person would experience that type of loss, right? And so according to the Department of Defense, the very best person to unpack trauma to prevent PTSD is a chaplain.
Right.
And so if people don't know, the Department of Defense is the largest employer of chaplains probably in the world, definitely in America, but probably in the world.
Yeah, most people don't know that.
I
My
didn't
husband
know
was
that.
military, so I knew, but when I found out, I was like, really?
Wow.
We should
Yes.
double them.
And then the Navy did last year just about. Then on the suicide side, right? On the suicide side, what we're seeing in Texas, at least, and I think this is a trend kind of nationally right now, is where we're seeing an increase of suicide is among our advanced placement students, our AP students, our best and our brightest, what will be America's future brain trust, right? That is where we are seeing a high level of suicide starting to occur now. And so our students, again, back to, I told you I love data, okay? Going back to Department of Defense, they said the chaplain is the best suicide prevention they have. So when the U.S. Navy last March, a year ago, said they had their highest suicide rate in history, they ordered up 3,000 new chaplains for suicide prevention. So chaplains do not replace your counselors, right? They don't replace a school counselor. They're in addition to, right? You add them to the team.
And it's a counter. So if you're already going to have the counselor that's trying to transition your children, then you should have another alternative to be able to help your children through whatever issue that they're having.
Yes, Kimberly, that was so interesting because people said, well, you're going to let bad people in. I'm like, have you
seen that? They're already in.
They're already there.
Right.
There.
We need people that represent God now employed by the school districts, that's their sole purpose every day is to represent the spiritual care and God on that campus of that school.
And they're not going to get in trouble for sharing about God because they're a chaplain. So
absolutely.
Right, they're not going to get fired or harassed or their jobs aren't in.
So
in
there are
jeopardy.
other things. This is what's really great is that you just seem to be like in the middle of everything.
Right.
And I had just heard the story about Louisiana passing a great bill.
Talk about that.
And Debbie was like, hey, Julie was there when the signing. I'm like, yeah, of course she was.
Right.
So tell us about those Louisiana.
Yes, Governor Landry.
Love him.
I know. I think the best comment I heard yesterday, I was invited yesterday to go to the signing. Louisiana actually, the governor signed over 20 pieces of legislation yesterday, completely centered around education, totally reforming education in Louisiana.
Amazing.
I mean, watch out, Florida.
Yeah.
Louisiana's on a. I'm saying, watch out, Texas.
I've been watching Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and I'm like,
Tennessee. Yes, they're passing great legislation. So, Governor Landry, he is the best comment I heard yesterday is that he's bringing hope back to the state.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Amazing.
He's bringing hope back to families, hope back to parents,
Yes.
hope back to teachers, bringing hope back. And
How's he doing that? How's he doing it?
well, he has a fantastic legislative body right now too, right?
So that helps.
It's a team effort. It's we the
Exactly.
people, of course, driving it. It's Moms for America driving it with their wonderful moms in Louisiana, Tennessee,
Yeah.
Texas. Just all around the nation. So it's always the powers of we the people. And the beauty that happens is whenever we have unity,
Right.
whenever we have
That's
we
right.
the people, the moms, the
Together.
dads, the grandparents, right?
right.
In unity, communicating and talking with our legislators, and then with the executive branch working to help everybody, right? Working to help the grassroots, working to help the legislative body. And then when we all walk in unity, that's when you get really, yesterday
things
was
done.
completely over 20 education bills in one legislative
We
session.
need to clarify, they were really good bills.
Oh,
California's
yes.
been
Yes,
passing
what
all
they
kinds
were.
of education bills,
Yeah,
and they're not
let's
so
talk
good.
about
Yeah,
some of them.
Brad
Yeah.
about some of those bills and what they did.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So they reformed their teacher pay, right? They're increasing teacher pay, which is excellent because
Yeah,
teachers
they need
do,
good teachers.
right. Teachers need to be paid more in
Because
a
they
lot
need
of
to
areas.
stop doing Uber in the night and just be able to teach all day. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and that was
good
another
point.
great piece of legislation that they passed that we have in Texas also is limiting how much reporting teachers
Yes.
have to do
Oh,
and
that's
how they're
great.
right. If you in Texas, we defined it down to 7 or 8 things a teacher can be required to do to write a report on. If it's outside of that, we wrote legislation that they have to be compensated for it. That's a whole nother contract.
Right. I
Hey,
love
that's
that.
amazing.
Love
Yes.
that.
And so Louisiana passed that. And then, of course, they're the very first state. This is hard for a Texan to say. I don't like being second. There's first and there's
Especially
everything
in
else.
Texas.
But they were the very first state to pass the 10 Commandment bill, which says that if someone
Yes.
donates the 10 Commandments to a classroom,
Yes.
it must be displayed in the classroom.
So
So,
love that.
really just
Yes,
congratulations
it
to
did, yes.
Governor Landry,
Yes.
to
It
their
hit world
legislative.
news yesterday. That hit world news yesterday.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Love
it was
the world
it was
media.
such a good news day, and
was.
and
Yes.
we need more of that. And I'm so thrilled to have you with us because this is the kind of thing that moms need to hear. We hear all the bad stuff all the time. We need to hear some good news, and we're going to come back with some more good news because there are some really great people out there. Julie has felt her calling. We've all kind of felt our callings, whatever it is, whether it's writing books, making movies, serving in office, teaching your kids and grandkids, being a light where you are. And so we have another guest who's going to be coming on to talk about how she used her talents to turn things around and be positive for education. We'll be right
Action.
back.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Mom-Led Revolution. holding in my hand an absolute treasure. You may not have seen it. I'm going to share it. This is one of the incredible books written by Jenny Cote. Now, this is an author. I got to read you this, okay? This is a great quote by Van Hipp, who was the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Army. This is a real deal here. Education is a national security issue, he says, which I would completely agree with. Jenny makes America's founding history fun reading, ensuring that freedom will once again be passed on to America's youth. This is what we need in America. We need the stories of what our country's about, why it's worth fighting for. So I am thrilled to be able to have this incredible author, because not only is this a treasure, but she is a national treasure writing these incredible stories. Jenny Cote, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. What an honor to be with you all.
Okay, so I have to say that what I love about these books, I'm just have to tell my personal story, because I just realized this today. So I met you at Rise Up Con in Nashville, Tennessee, which is like Comic-Con for Christian families, which is an incredible event. And I saw the books, and I'm always attracted. I can't help it. I tell my husband all the time, I can stop anytime I want. I just don't have to. If it's red, white, and blue, or America, or patriotism, I'm gonna gravitate to it. And so I saw the books, and I started looking through them, reading what they were about, talking to you about every single one of them. So my husband brings the books, for the show, and he's like, "You remember when you bought those books, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago in Nashville." He goes, "No. We were at Valley Forge in the little store in the shop there." And I remember I was sitting there looking at them going, "Well, I don't know. They could be anything." So I bought a couple just to test them out, and was so impressed when I met you and saw all of them. And I totally just connected the dots today.
Right.
It's the same person.
It's funny how that
Small
works.
world. Small world.
It is.
Yeah. So what's really great about these books is that you make them fun for kids, because you have inserted animals, beloved characters, into the history of our country so that they can really experience it in a way that it resonates with them.
Right. You have to make history fun for kids. Not everybody is a history geek like me that would just, skip and hop down Duke of Gloucester Street in Williamsburg as a kid, when I lived there, and just could soak up history like a sponge. For some kids, it's not their thing. And it's like, but they're going to have to learn it. And every American must learn their history, right? And so how do you make it fun for kids? Well, you can't go wrong with talking animals. Okay.
Right.
But don't be fooled by the cute little animals on the cover and how they work. You want me to tell you how the animals help with history?
So the one story was what? I'm trying to remember the first story that I looked at, but where the mouse and the cat are like these superstars that are really smart and know how to fix everything, and nobody even knows it's happening.
That's right. The humans are clueless. Well, let me start at the beginning. So the books all begin, there's 9 novels out in all. The first 6 are biblical. And so it begins with the animals heading to Noah's Ark. And they foil a plot by a stowaway who's out to kill Noah and wipe out the human race. So the main character is a Scotty dog, Max, and a French cat named Liz. And so because they save the day, God chooses them to save the day through pivotal points of human history. And the humans are clueless, And so book 2 was the story of Joseph in Egypt, and 3, the Christmas story, and 4, the life of Christ, and 5 and 6, all of Acts up to the fall of Rome. And now I'm on a 6-book set on the American Revolution, and then I'll do C.S. Lewis and World War II. But this is how it works with the animals. I look for those moments where we either don't know how or why something happened in history, and there's a lot of those moments, right? And that's where I slide these characters in, and they're the agent that made that thing happen. You don't alter the history. You never touch the history. I bend over backwards to make sure I've gotten it spot on right. But it makes it fun because, the kids are saying, the humans have no idea that these animals are. Liz and Nigel are the ones that really wrote that letter that was published in the Northern papers that no one's to this day knows who wrote it. Things like that. And also they act as commentators and tour guides through history to explain, well, what does George Washington mean when he's addressing the Continental Army? Or what did Patrick Henry, that speech, liberty or death, what does all that mean? So they act as, explainers to the kids about it. So it makes it super fun. And for adults too.
So how did I find the books at Valley Forge? You did it?
Well, I have been blessed to have my books at several historical parks. And I just had a signing there in the cabin shop behind the Washington Memorial Chapel in December.
Wow.
That's where you got them. Yes, I flew up. I had a signing at Washington's Crossing. I flew up. Nice. They reenact the crossing every December. Mm-hmm. They have a dress rehearsal like 2 weeks before Christmas. And so I was, in my latest book, The Marquis, the Escape, and the Fox covers the crossing. And so I flew up there and I had a signing at both places. And they didn't want to just carry the revolution. They said, we're a church. They're with the church, and they said, we want all 9. And so they're carrying all 9 of them there. So I'm very blessed and honored by that. Yeah. And I love to go on site to historical places. And I love to do reenactments and dress up in funny clothes and all of that as well. And
how did you come up with this idea? Obviously, we've been talking about this earlier in today's show. Like when God tells you to do something, you're like, okay, great, one step at a time. What's your story? How did that happen?
Well, it's so funny. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had no idea I was going to be an author. I was that kid that's like, I want to be a marine biologist and swim with dolphins. I want to design greeting cards. I want to be a singer on Broadway.
Creative.
I just had no idea. And so when it came time for college, my parents said, Jenny, why don't you go into marketing? You always had an angle going as a kid. You're always selling something. And so I did. And then I got a graduate degree and I was working at the healthcare field, Scottish Rite Children's Medical Center, and our mascot was a Scotty. So I bought a Scotty named Max. And so I'm getting to how this started. Right. I was watching the real Max and the real Liz play fight one day. And I sat there looking at them going, when did dogs and cats first get on each other's nerves? Maybe when they were cooped up on the ark for a year. And they was like, bing, and then this idea, what if you were to tell that history from the animal's perspective? And I never knew what was coming my way. And, I was working at the Children's Hospital in marketing and planning. I loved working with sick kids. It was so rewarding. But I had that divine discontent, I call it, like, this isn't it. This isn't what I'm meant to do.
Right.
And when this book came out, I'm like, this is what I meant to do. Yeah. And I work 3, 4, 5 times the amount of hours I ever did in the corporate world, but I don't work a day in my life. When you were talking about how you love to bless so many millions of kids a day, what a joy. Could there be any higher calling than to pour into children, into the next generation? And so these books just kind of took off. And so I did the biblical, and I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot, and I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and so Williamsburg, Jamestown, Yorktown. My mom used to drive through the battlefields of Yorktown to get to the grocery store. So all of these things were impressed on me early. And so it's as if God knew someday I'd write America's story. How he does this, I don't know.
He's going, isn't he?
And I originally was only going to write Patrick Henry because he's my favorite founding father. But as I was starting to write it and I was watching the attack on our history and how it was being erased, rewritten, marginalized, I'm like, you know what? I feel like my service to my country, because everybody has to find what is the thing that you need to do in your sphere, in your gifting for this nation. Sure. And me, it's like, I'm going to tell her story in kitchen sink level detail, because you can see these are not just little chapter books. I was like, and they kept growing because I was like, well, I got to tell them that because I'm discovering things I never knew. I was sharing earlier, I have a personal library of 400 books on the American Revolution that's still growing. I'm like you. It's just like,
you too.
My full confession is I have to write books to support my research habit because it gets very expensive. Not only do I have to write the books, but I have to go see where it happened.
Right.
I've been to every major battle where the revolution happened. I've been to every one. I flew up to Monmouth for the reenactment last year. I go because I feel to do my job well, I have to go see where it happened. I have to experience it.
But when you've read about it and then you go see it, that's the thing I've done with my children. When we were going to go to Arlington Cemetery for 6 months before we ever even went to Arlington Cemetery, I read about all of the various different heroes and patriots that were there, the different battles, the heroes that fought in them, and so that by the time we got there, they understood what it was. It was so funny because when they were like 9 and 6 at the time. Mm-hmm. We get out of the car and they, like all precocious boys, they start running out, and then they get to the gate where it says Arlington Cemetery and they stop. And these 2 other kids, a little boy and a little girl, started running towards the gate. And my little 6-year-old turned around and said, stop. this is a special place.
No.
And I was like, okay, I'm doing something right. And it's the stories.
That's right.
If you just take them, they don't get it.
That's
But
right.
if you read about what it is and then you take them,
That's right.
that becomes who they are.
Right. And not just the big stories that we know, but the unsung heroes, the little stories that had that one American not done that one small thing.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The outcome of the battle could have been changed. And that's why I was like, well, I got to put that in there. So it's important to know all of it and listen, all the history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And listen, I write it all. You've got to know the good to repeat that, right?
That's
You've got to know
right.
the bad and the ugly so you
we
don't
want
do
that.
it again.
Right.
Exactly.
And so I present it all
I
as
love
it should
that.
be. Yeah.
I do too.
It
That's
should be. It
fantastic.
should be part of our education, right? It should be part of our school system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what Julie is talking about. Things like this that need to be, incorporated around the country.
Absolutely, because this hits two key points in education: patriotism, right? Teaching that America is exceptional, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Because one of the things that makes us exceptional is what we have overcome, right? We recognized what we were doing wrong, and we did everything we could to the extent of a war to fix it, right? And so that I love it because, of course, you're talking about literacy, right? Which is a huge problem we're having right now. So it addresses the needs in literacy, but also the need of just instilling the love for America and that America is exceptional in our children.
That's right. That's right. And passing the baton to the next generation of writers and storytellers too.
Oh, right.
I partnered with the National Park Service several years ago to create a writing camp for kids at Kings Mountain in
that's
Cote.
fantastic.
And it was Epic Patriot Camp, and we did it several years, and we had about 25 kids, and they became one of the characters, like who fought at the Battle of Kings Mountain, and because again, I said, you got to make it personal. So they wrote the story of their character. They dressed out every day. They had a camp out the last night, and this was life changing for these kids. And then COVID killed it. So then I took it virtual with my author colleague friend Libby McNamee. I said, hey, let's try this virtually. So 2 summers ago, we had 25 kids from all over the world, and a young boy from Australia, Christopher, would get up at 4 a.m. to join us to be Benjamin Franklin virtual, and just amazing kids. And we published their book on Amazon. You can find it. And it's Epic Patriot Camp, the story of 1776. And then the next year we did 77 to 79, because I feel like, yes, these books are important to teach the history, but it's even more important to teach the next generation of storytellers, because the next generation has to keep telling the stories.
Exactly. And we're squashing them. I feel like with the way the education system is, we squash them before they even get to 3rd grade.
Right.
And we need to, I think if we can touch their hearts, then it automatically comes out, and they want to be that creative person in whatever aspect. But the storytellers are there. They're born. They just need to be inspired.
That's
right.
That's so true. Trained.
Absolutely.
That's right. And then I love that you are inspiring liberty and freedom internationally. Right? Taking it to Australia and other countries. So if I'm a mom, how do I connect? If I have a child, I'm a mom of a child who loves to write and I want to nurture this, or how does a mom connect to that?
Well, go visit my website, and I'm sure you'll put it up there, but it's epicordoroftheseven.com.
Which is the series.
Which is the series, right?
Because there are 7 animals, right?
There's 7 animals, right? So that's who the Epic Order of the Seven is, and they have different abilities and gifting. But you'll see a page there for Epic Patriot Camp. You'll see what we've done, and I'm not sure when our next virtual one is going to be. But it's been incredible. Also, the books are on Audible, and also I have a fabulous woman who teaches. She's an attorney. She's taught constitutional law, and she's teaching online classes about my books now too. Homeschool classes, so virtually, and so you can find information about that as well.
And all of it's on your website.
It's all on my website.
Epicordoroftheseven.com.
Epicordoroftheseven.com.
I was going to laugh, just saying, wouldn't this be nice required reading?
Wouldn't it?
Either in schools or
I would love it to be required.
Aren't you doing those standards, Julie?
Actually, we do have legislation. We do have a law requiring a mandatory reading list list for students in Texas. So
yeah,
I think
so,
this may fit several of our laws.
Yeah. However, I can be of assistance.
I love it. I shall be of service. These books are fantastic. I cannot say enough about them. And Jenny, thank you so much for being here with us, for writing these, for creating a solution to a problem, not just a solution. This is an absolute inspiration for kids. And as a history buff myself, I love it when I can find great literature that I can share with my children and grandchildren. So thank you for joining us. We're going to come right back for last minute thoughts on the Mom View. What kind of America do you want to leave future generations? What do you want America to look like for your children and your grandchildren? Our nation is at a crossroads, and it will be us, the mothers of America, who will determine the future of our country. What we teach and nurture in the hearts of our children and how we vote will make all the difference. If you love God, respect life, honor family, and cherish freedom, then use your voice and be heard. We teach these values in our home. Let's secure them with our vote. And we're back for final takeaways from the show. So Jenny, tell us about these awesome books and what moms need to know.
Okay, well, first of all, these are not just for kids, they're for the whole family. Because again, I emphasize that families should learn America's history together.
If the moms are reading it, the mom's learning it.
That's right. That's right. So the way I decided to start with the book one, which is The Voice of the Revolution and the Key, it starts when the founders are kids. Patrick Henry's 7, George Washington's 11, because I wanted to show them before they were founding fathers, they were founding kids, right? They were their age. Again, make it relatable. So you watch this incredible generation rise to find their calling, and you'll see them fail and you'll see them mess up, but finally find that calling that Patrick Henry becomes the voice of the revolution, and George Washington, the sword of the revolution, and Thomas Jefferson, the pen of the revolution. So this ends with Liberty or Death, and actually St. John's Church, to write the scene. I like to write on site when I can. Book 2, The Declaration of the Sword and the Spy, picks up with the first shots at Lexington and Concord, all the way through the Declaration of Independence. Book 3, The Marquis, The Escape, and the Fox, is the Battle of New York, the retreat across New Jersey, Trenton, Princeton, and also the Marquis de Lafayette's escape from France and the French alliance. Because most Americans also don't know we would not be independent without France.
That's right.
You know, they were our first friend, our first ally. So that's a big thing. Book 4 will finish the Northern campaign. 5 will be the Southern campaign through Yorktown. And then 6 will be the founding of our government and so forth. And then I'll head up to D-Day and World War II with C.S. Lewis. So.
And do you ever sleep?
Never.
She sleeps, she dreams.
Right.
She's writing.
If you want your children, if you want to learn about history, this is a great way as a mom to learn about it. And
what grades?
Yeah.
Well, you know, like 3, 4 and up. Okay, you know, the target is 8 and up. I have a lot of 7-year-olds read it. I have a lot of grandparents.
But I love that you said 8 to 98.
8 to 98.
This is one of the things is when Rush Limbaugh came out with his books, I kept telling the moms, don't just give the book to your children. Right. Read the book with your children. Right. And so many of these moms are like, I had no idea. I had no idea. That's why they need to read these books with their children. This is a great opportunity to spend time together as a family and learn about this exceptional country. And with the 250th anniversary right around the corner, we are always looking for ways to ignite that spirit of patriotism and celebration of America, because if we don't, then the 250th is not going to look like the 200th. Exactly. So many things have changed in the last 50 years, and we need to ignite that love of liberty in the hearts of our children. And I guess that would be our final takeaway.
Right. And raising patriots, that's what at Moms for America. That's one of our pillars.
That's what we do. Thank you, Julie and Jenny, for being with us today. Love having all these amazing people on the couch with us. And we hope that you'll join us next week on the Mom View. And remember, check us out at momview.com, because we want to hear your view. And we'll see you next week on the Mom View.